Hi, I'm Anne-Marie Mediwake, and I'm here with Lindsey Deluce and Kelsey McEwen. Welcome to CTV Your Morning, the podcast.
We have a great show for you today. Coming up, it was a really warm start to fall across Canada, but that means there's a downside. We are talking about ticks.
We'll also dive into one of, I think, the most popular segments we have online right now, why butter is being stolen and resold on the black market.
So we've been talking a lot about Taylor Swift recently because her shows in Toronto and Vancouver mark the end of her world tour that's taken her around the globe for the past year and a half. And while everybody who attended, no matter what country, are going to leave with some great memories, some are leaving with a little bit more. 11-year-old JJ Medland is one of those lucky fans. Taylor Swift gave him the coveted 22 hat during her first night in Toronto. It's the hat that everybody wants. Here's what that moment was like for him.
Oh yeah, what is it? She gave you something?
She gave me a Speak Now World Tour guitar pick.
Okay. And you play guitar?
Yeah.
Yeah, you do. So you were like, oh, that's cool. So that's why they were filming me, but no, there was more.
Yeah, and then 10 minutes later, like 15 minutes later, they come back and they, with like bodyguards and people, and they bring me to the front of the stage.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like freaking out.
Yeah. What were you thinking? Like, did you know that at that moment that was what was going to happen?
Yeah, when they started walking me, I was like, I can't mess up. I can't mess up.
So then you're there and you see Taylor Swift up close and personal. In that video, and can we bring that video back? Because it looks like you're saying something to her. What are you saying to her?
So I say, she said, this is for you. And then I'm like, this is the best night of my life. And then she hugs me.
Oh.
And then we pinky promise to be best friends for life. And I tell her that my hockey number is 22.
Oh.
And then she gives me the hat.
And she gave you the hat. Have you taken it off? Nope.
Not really.
Oh, was he not the cutest? I know, and what we didn't show on air was the fact that you noticed something about the hat, Kelsey.
Yeah, so I saw this online. She signs all of the hats as well. So it's a really personalized item. Two things stand out to me. One, he doesn't have a voice, I think, because he's been screaming since the tour, same with his mom, since that show. But the second thing we were talking about, Lynn's off camera, was that it's such a reminder that every moment of your life can be an audition. And so he had that makeup artist come up to him, handed him the guitar pick, and you know that if he hadn't have been chit-chatty and the amazing kid he was, they probably would have gone to find maybe someone else who could get that hat. But he showed up authentically as himself, and they were like, this is the kid.
So he has been a super fan for years. So he's the youngest of 4 kids.
Yeah.
He has 2 older sisters who are super fans of Taylor Swift. But he's the one that's been performing for the family.
Oh, I love it.
So when I was talking to his mom was saying, like, he's put on full concerts for them before. And the fact that he has his hockey jersey is number 22. The other great part about JJ's story is that he didn't even have tickets for the show.
What?
He did not have tickets for the concert.
So what happened?
The day of, what happened was he had been begging his parents to go to the concert, like begging them. And that night he had hockey practice. And he said, his parents said, go upstairs and get your hockey gear on. He goes upstairs, he walks down the stairs in full-on Taylor Swift gear.
Yes.
And says, this is what needs to happen tonight.
Wow.
So his parents remarkably made it happen for him. And not only that, his sister was also at the show, but not sitting with them.
Yeah.
So she's watching her brother.
I love that. I love that.
So he's the one that gets selected. And I was asking his mom, Jenny, I was like, so what do the sisters think now? They said they could not believe it, that their brother was the one that was selected to get that hat.
Oh, we were joking one time this week about the word manifesting, and talk about manifest, like coming down in the full outfit. That's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool.
Really
And what's cool, too, is he's going to put some work into making sure that this hat lasts forever. And he told you, Lynn's, what he's set to do.
Yeah, they're basically going to encase it.
Yeah.
They're going to put, like, a box around it and have it in some prominent area where everybody can see it. I mean, what a story. 11 years old.
I love that there has been so much positivity with this. And you're hearing so many great stories about people meeting people at the concerts and exchanging friendship bracelets, and all of that joy, I hope, outweighs some of the more difficult stories that are coming out of the Taylor Swift experience here. And that comes in the form of ticket scams. Emily Newton got herself tickets to take herself, her 2 sisters, and her mom to one of the shows in Toronto from what seemed like this really reputable seller. But then, on the day of the show, she realized that she had been scammed and she wasn't alone.
How are you feeling now?
I'm feeling okay. It's
How's
just
your
been,
mom?
my mom is doing good. She is, she's got a good head over her shoulders, but it's crazy to see how many more people were actually affected than just us.
Yeah.
And that's really the real conversation is how many people are involved in this.
I'm glad you can find a little bit of comfort in that, because I think it would still burn me, especially with all the pictures that are on social media and everything.
Yeah.
Your mom bought the tickets. So how and when did you find out they were fake?
So it was actually the day of the concert, sadly.
So had your outfit planned?
Yeah, there was a lot of things planned and all that. And that morning we had realized that we didn't have tickets. And so we went to social media to kind of see, you know, like, is there anyone else out here? You know, social media is what it is now with the algorithm. And it turns out within immediate seconds, this video blew up and really showed the impact of how many people were involved in this, because no one had talked about it yet.
Emily, talk me through what you felt like that sort of panicked or confusion that would have hit first about realizing these don't exist.
Yeah, I was disappointed. I more just felt for my mom, because I was the receiving end of this. I was not directly the person who purchased it.
Yeah.
And it is, you know, it's a situation where you can feel embarrassed, humiliated. You know, there's a lot of taboo around being scammed, and the thing is that it's actually so much more common than people realize.
Yes.
And no one really does talk about it. And I think that's why when I went to social media to really, you know, showcase what was going on and see if anyone else was in the boat, it was like a widespread across North America that this was happening.
Well, obviously, it's a big event, so that is prime opportunity for scammers. Halton Regional Police is currently investigating the ticketing scam. That your mom filed a report, I know, with York Regional Police. Are you taking any recourse against the ticket seller? Do you feel like you can?
At this point, I don't think there's much we can do. It's really in the authorities' hands now, and I think it's just about moving forward and doing what you can to make light of the situation. It's unfortunate, but at this point, there's not much other than, you know, trying to just give people more reassurance as to what had gone on and better understanding of the situation.
And listen, scammers are scammers for a reason. They do this almost professionally, and so it's not on the fault of people who get scammed. It's designed to fool you. You've said you're more concerned, though, about the mental health side effects from something like this. Explain that to me.
Yeah, so what I'm observing through all of this, and I work in marketing, so I've been able to really see this from an outside lens, is that I've had a lot of messages from mothers, from other parents, from fathers, daughters. You know, they're just absolutely devastated, and they feel like they've done something wrong.
Yeah.
And at the bottom of the line, you know, we are human, and this is, you know, we have to be cautious, but these types of things, the way this whole system was set up is that there was no reason for these people to believe otherwise.
Yeah.
This was a reputable source that had given people tickets that were actually real in the past. And so it's left tons of people feeling like they've done something incredibly wrong. And then at the end of the day, they didn't. This is just an unfortunate situation, and it's not something they need to feel ashamed of, although it's something that I think they will feel that way for a little bit.
Yeah, empathy, not criticism, for sure, for anybody who falls prey. What advice do you have for Swifties who are trying to buy tickets on the resale market?
I mean, at this point, I think it's use your own caution. Even the resale on StubHub, you know, I've been told that those are also not real. There can be scams within that. So just bottom of the line, you know, use your intuition. And if there's anything that makes you feel or doubt that this is maybe not the right thing, then maybe don't purchase them from that person. But sadly, you know, I don't even know if Ticketmaster at this point you can trust anything. It's so big. This community is so big that it's really hard to gauge.
Well, and even police are having a hard time shutting this stuff down. Emily, I'm really sorry for what happened to your mom. I'm sorry you didn't get to go to the concert, and I want to thank you for coming on and talking about it today.
Thank you.
Good advice for other people looking for tickets.
All right, now we're going to move away from music and art. We're going to turn to the world of artificial intelligence.
And while the speed of advancements had made some people a little bit nervous, analysts say progress now in AI is beginning to slow down.
Yeah, this was really fascinating. Our CTV science and technology specialist, Dan Riskin, gives us an update on where AI is and where it isn't headed right now.
One of the conversations we've been having over the years is like everything seems to be moving so fast, like at turbo speed, but now we're of a different mind, like it's slowing down a little bit?
Well, so there is some debate. People that make the AI are saying, no, there's no slowdown. Everything's still going full speed ahead. And people that are sort of outside and looking in are saying, it looks a lot like a slowdown. Like when this stuff came online, ChatGPT it's 2 years old this month. And so it just started, and then everyone's like, well, look at how good it is, but also it's growing exponentially. And it did get smarter really fast. And we said, it's just going to be a matter of months before this is smarter than us.
Right.
But that hasn't happened. We're we're not living in a world where the artificial intelligence is smarter than us yet. And it seems to have plateaued. And so one of the explanations that's being floated around right now is that basically there just aren't enough data to keep feeding more and more. The way that they got stronger and stronger is that they ate more information. And so it's a little bit like a hippo. It eats, you give it a bunch of information, it eats a ton of and then something comes out the other end, and that's your large language model. And the more you feed it, the better that stuff is. And that's basically the way these things have worked. If you want to make them better, feed it more data, feed it more data. Now it's eating the whole Wikipedia, it's eating most of the internet. There's not much more you can feed this hippo.
I feel like this is like, I love your hippo analogy, because I was thinking more like person. Like, you know, when you're younger and you watch the kids and they're like sponges, give them a language when they're young and they're just like, and now as we get older, we're like, where's the information? I know it's in there, so it's stored somewhere.
Well, and another explanation for this. So one explanation is that there just aren't enough like bigger sets of data to keep giving them. But another possibility is maybe what's true for a smaller model that's getting bigger isn't necessarily true for a big model. So if you take a kid and you say, read this one piece of paper about math, they're going to be kind of good at math. And you say, read this whole book about math, they're going to be better. Read 10 books about math, they're going to be very good. But at some point, like if they've read 1,000 books and then you have them read 10,000 books, you're not going to see a huge improvement. So with large language models, that's kind of what we keep doing. Is there maybe an inherent limit at which that process doesn't give you the same kinds of returns as it was when it was smaller?
It's so interesting.
It is.
You mentioned the tech companies. I mean, they are obviously constantly looking for new ways to advance the technology. So what are they looking at right now, and how to keep it going?
Well, they want it to keep going, and there's so much money in this stuff. Everybody's invested in artificial intelligence with the expectation that it's going to continue to grow exponentially. And if it's not going to grow exponentially because we're giving it more and more data, there's got to be some other way to make them smarter. And so now the big race among the AI companies is, how can we have smarter models for a given amount of information? How can it be more selective about what it learns? How can it take what it's working on and think about it in different ways before it spits out an answer? And so these different ways of thinking, instead of just eating everything and having it come out the back of a hippo, that's basically the new way forward for this stuff.
So the future of AI looks like what?
That's a great question. It's a really exciting time. I mean, it was exciting when it started, and it was scary because it was growing so fast. And it's still not clear that it's plateauing, but it kind of feels like it's plateauing. And if that's true, what does come next? I'm so excited to find out what comes.
Do you use this in your life a lot?
Every day I use it.
I know, I've been using it a lot too.
It's great.
I find, like, if you use it well, and I was at dinner with friends on Friday night, and I would say there were 6 of us at the table, 2 of us are using it on a daily basis, and the other 4 were like, how are you using this? But those are the conversations people are having.
And there are ways to use it that it's not very effective, and there are ways to use it that are extremely effective. If you're brainstorming, I often, I'll have a science headline, and I'm like, this headline's not working. Can you give me 20 ideas for a headline for this story I've just written? So it'll give the story, and I'll say, give me some ideas for a headline, and it's just great. And I'll say, give me something more concise, and it gives me ideas.
It's so helpful. I know right now I'm building my first website ever.
Oh, wow.
This is a total side note, but I'm putting in paragraphs and saying, can you make it sound less cheesy?
Yes. Yeah, and it can do that.
It in like 2 seconds.
But it's never perfect, right? So what it spits out is never quite right. You're always going in and fixing it.
That's right.
But it does help you get there. It's like having an editor you're working with. I always think of it as a sort of pretty incompetent assistant. You can give them a lot of tasks, and they do help, but you really have to clean up a lot after.
That's right. You got to vet it on your own. Dan Riskin, thanks for vetting this for us.
Okay, my favorite topic, weather. My least favorite topic, ticks. If you thought the season was over, think again.
Yeah, ticks are active and biting even when the temperatures are at 4 degrees Celsius or higher. So that used to mean come late fall, they were gone. But now climate change is creating warmer conditions, and they're thriving longer than usual. I'm talking about on your winter coat.
I don't like this. I'm even scratching my skin right now thinking about this. Laura Ferguson, assistant professor of biology at Acadia University, tells us more about the extended tick season in this country and what it means for all of us.
Okay, according to eTick, which was a new place for me, a tick population tracking platform, winter tick sightings are on the rise. Just over 200 were recorded in the winter of 2020. Nearly 400 were seen last season. How are they shaping up so far this season, 2024?
Yeah, exactly. And that platform is a fantastic resource, just in case your viewers aren't familiar with it. So eTick is this platform, as you've said, where you can upload pictures of a tick that's you found on yourself or on your pet or just crawling around somewhere. And someone will identify it for you, tell you what species it is, if you need to go maybe get some antibiotics, that kind of thing. So it's also allowing us as researchers to track some larger trends across the country as well in terms of seasonal activity and what's been picked up. So Yeah, you're absolutely right. That 4 degrees Celsius threshold's been kicking around for a while, and that's exactly what we see when we take ticks into the lab and we experimentally expose them to a range of different temperatures. 4 degrees is about where we start to see a real uptick in activity. They can move around a little bit below that, but that's around where we start to see a whole bunch, and as it warms up from there, more and more become active. So yeah, so through the winter, basically what we're kind of saying at this point is every season is tick season.
Oh.
For our black-legged ticks, we get this big peak in sort of the spring and early summer of activity, and then it kind of diminishes a little bit through the later summer, and then we get another big peak in late or sort of early to late fall here as well. So you're going to see a lot around this time of year, especially if you're above 4 degrees.
Really?
And then even through the winter, December, January, February, as long as it's warm enough out and we don't have a big thick layer of snow cover that they're underneath, then you're at risk of finding them and having them encounter you. Yeah.
An uptick in ticks, no pun intended. Listen, if climate change, if climate change is allowing ticks to survive longer into winter and then emerge earlier in the spring, as you said, every season, I guess, is tick season. So will we see their populations grow as they establish themselves sooner? Meaning, in the typically high season for ticks, will we see even more of them?
It's possible. We don't know for sure yet, but certainly there are some forecasts that suggest that that's possible, that certainly through Canada, where we've seen that there's been a bit of a temperature barrier to ticks, that's being relieved a bit with climate change, right? So we're certainly going to see those populations push themselves a little bit farther north as we see this sort of extended fall, warmer winter, early spring kinds of conditions that are coming with climate change, right? And so that's because winter is harsh for ticks, right? And so if it's cold outside, they can get a lot of injury inside of their bodies, and sometimes that can kill them. And so if our winter is a little bit milder, then they don't get as much injury, and then they survive a little bit better. And so certainly that means that you could end up with a slightly larger population in the spring if we don't have that kind of source of mortality as much through the winter. And then longer growing season as well can help them have another opportunity to find a blood meal and get on to that next stage of their life, that kind of thing. So certainly we're seeing that with climate change, that northward expansion, and then also the possibility that in those areas, sustaining larger populations as well.
So we're around 5 weeks till Christmas, and we're used to talking about frostbite, not about ticks. And the general advice for ticks in the summer is wear long sleeve clothing and pants. In the winter, we're already in a lot of that. So do ticks pose the same threats to us?
I would say that in the winter, it's certainly a lowered risk of encountering ticks, especially because it's still colder, at least. So the risk is lower, and especially because when it's winter, we think the ticks are likely under a big layer of leaf litter, and they're kind of staying insulated under there. However, even though you're covered, the thing is if you're traipsing through, a bunch of deep leaf litter in the woods, you've gone for a nice woods walk around Christmas time or something with your family, and say it's, 10, 12 degrees out, it's certainly possible that they're going to find you. They might crawl up your leg, that kind of thing, from further down the ground. They might be able to get in under a shirt sleeve, those kinds of things. So it's still really prudent to check yourself if you're outside, and certainly your pets are going to pick them up as well. That's a lot of what we see across that e-tick platform is them coming in off of pets from being outside in the winter.
We are glad you're enjoying Your Morning, the podcast. Every week, we're going to bring you some of the most interesting conversations from our show on a wide variety of topics. But of course, we love when you join us live weekdays, 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern and 7 to 10 a.m. Atlantic on CTV CTV News Channel, or on your CTV News app.
So we started the podcast with Taylor Swift. Now let's talk about other musicians making news these days. Kelsey, you caught up with music journalist Emily Hanskamp. Here's that conversation.
This week in music, we are talking about the latest developments in the P. Diddy case, and in other news, why we're also seeing more music now than ever before. With that and more, we welcome back music journalist Emily Hanskamp. Great to have you back on the show.
Always great to be here.
So let's talk about the Glastonbury Festival. The tickets went live this past weekend. They sold out in less than 40 minutes, which is impressive considering I don't even know that we know the lineup yet.
No, we do not, Kelsey. That's what I love about this festival. It's one of the biggest music festivals in the world, and people are buying this blind faith. Emily Evis, the organizer, is still in talks with who's headlining, but they sold out nonetheless. And the interesting thing here is we know that in 2026, this festival is taking a rest. That's partially why the demand was so high here. They also have ushered in a new ticketing system this time, hoping to make it a bit more fair. They're using what Taylor Swift and Oasis used, which is sort of like a lottery queue system where instead of refreshing that page and hoping for the best, you get a random number you're assigned, and you either get in or you don't, and your maximum allotment is 6 tickets. They were hoping this would help. Fans were not so happy in terms of the glitches they experienced. Others said they thought it was more fair, but overall, it supports the thesis of 2024, which is that going to live music, getting tickets to live music is the hardest thing in the world for music fans right now.
Oh my God, it isn't ever. And then as you're saying, like, a more fair system, I'm like, I hate this system.
No,
I've never gotten
there
a
is
code.
no fair system.
There is
Yeah.
no, not at all. Anyway, moving on, very exciting to see the Glastonbury Festival news. Elsewhere in music, though, we continue obviously to follow the developments in the P. Diddy case. So where are we at today?
Yeah, so as we know, he's been incarcerated in Brooklyn since September, facing federal racketeering charges and sex trafficking charges. And now on Friday, he'll have a bail hearing. There was a $15 million bail proposal that his team made. In response to that, prosecutors made a court filing accusing him of trying to obstruct justice from within jail. They're essentially saying he's been relentlessly trying to kind of persuade and contact potential witnesses. He's been engaging in three-way phone calls with associates of his alleged quote-unquote criminal enterprise, that he is actually paying at least 8 inmates for their phone privileges, using unauthorized messaging platforms to sort of bifurcate these kind of monitoring within the prison system. So we are going to have to see, one, how this bail hearing pans out, but the prosecution is certainly making a case for the fact that witness tampering is a potential threat here, and that he has really gotten other people to do his bidding, and that they should kind of take that into consideration for his bail.
And when is that bail hearing?
Friday.
Friday. Okay, so we'll get you the latest on Friday with that. Also, it feels like, I don't know about you, but I feel like every time I open up any sort of like streaming app or even social media, it feels like there's new music. Am I wrong?
No, you are not wrong.
Right, okay, so science is also apparently backing me up on this one. According to the website Music Radar, the chief economist of Spotify in the UK has said that more music is being released today in a single day than was released in the entire calendar year of 1989. So
Yeah,
what's happening here?
I do love news that is validating when you're like, there's so much new music, how do I keep up? Yes, like first of all, I do want to take these numbers and crunch them myself, but we know that more music is being created today than ever before. As we end the new year, it's good to look back on that. I mean, Media found in their State of the Music Creator Economy report last year that there are about 75 million music creators now, up 12% from the year prior. By 2030, only expected to rise. They think there's going to be about 198 million music creators. This is something we've just never seen the likes of before. The reason is really twofold. One, you've got AI, of course, making it easier to make these mass amounts of music with a kind of snap of a finger. But also they're calling this, you know, the rise of the creator consumer, where the democratization of tools and laptops, you know, you can make music from your own basement, has made it so that we have more music creators than ever, more music than ever. So we can only expect that feeling of there is so much music, what do I do with it, to get worse or better, depending on how you look at it.
I feel like we saw a similar thing with literature, where all of a sudden when you could self-publish and with AI, tons of stuff came out. But the thing I take away from it is there are still good books and we still find them, even in the sea of all the words out there.
I would not have a job if there wasn't incredible music coming out every day. So,
Right. So there you go. Well, Emily, it's great to have you back on the show.
So great to be here.
Now we want to talk about the hottest new item on the black market in Canada. We are talking butter. Yes, butter. Authorities say there has been a huge increase in the scale of these butter thefts, worth thousands of dollars in Ontario, happening over the past year.
Okay, so how does the butter black market work, and why butter?
Well, here's Dalhousie Professor of Food, Distribution and Policy, Sylvain Charlebois, to explain.
So we know right now butter prices are high. Not as high as last year, but they're still pretty pricey. StatsCan showing that the average price in 2019 was $3.90, while this September, butter costs $5.49. And that's down from last year's high of $6.40. Anytime there's a black market, that is a sign of a greater need. So what is driving this black market butter trend?
Well, as soon as a product goes up in price pretty rapidly, and that's the case with butter, organized crime, they get organized and they actually aim at some products that are easy to steal. The thing about butter, unlike other pricey products like meat products, for example, grocers would put electronic tags underneath pieces, but butter is expensive, but not that expensive, so it's not worth it to actually put electronic tags. And criminals actually know that. And so they'll just go after butter and they'll steal a lot of butter. So you gotta be well organized to steal thousands of dollars of butter and find, and of course, most groups that will actually steal butter will know who to sell it to even before stealing it.
Okay, here are my questions. First of all, how do you steal thousands of dollars worth of, are you stealing a flat? Is it coming off the truck? Also, the fact that organized crime is involved in butter thefts is kind of funny and not funny at the same time. And then how does the black market for butter work? Like, where are they selling it to, and how much are they getting for it? What's the street value of butter?
That's a lot of questions at once. I mean, essentially, the loss prevention, or shrinkage, as we call it in the industry, is a taboo subject in the industry. We don't want to talk about it. What's new is that we're talking more about it. We know of these cases in Guelph and in Brampton as well, because I think the industry is realizing that there's a problem. I mean, prices have gone up, and there are more cases like that. Often there are internal employees involved, not always, but sometimes, and so theft can occur in the inventory, in the back store, or even on trucks as well, even before it gets to the store itself. But sometimes you'll actually see groups just go in and grab as much as they can in stores, but that's pretty rare.
So where are people buying it from? Like, how does the black market for butter operate?
Well, actually, I heard that there are some thieves selling butter on Marketplace.
Like online?
Why would you do that? Yes, online. And I'm not sure why you would do that, but typically what would happen is that you would find, honestly, restaurants, food service, bakeries, they're always looking for good deals. And if you're desperate, margins are really low. If you hear of a good deal, you'll just buy and won't ask questions. That's basically what happens sometimes.
I'm fascinated to know how this will affect the prices of butter overall. Will this cause prices to go down, or actually do the opposite and jack them up further?
Well, with butter, things are pretty regulated and pretty stable. As you know, Anne-Marie, that we do have supply management in Canada, so butter fat prices are set by the Canadian Dairy Commission. So typically it's pretty stable. We're not and that's the main driver for butter prices at retail, because butter fat, so the money that farmers get, prices have actually gone up by 40 to 50% in the last few years. That's a lot. So dairy farmers are getting more, which is why butter is more expensive. But I don't think that shrinkage, so theft, will be a factor in increasing prices.
I guess the bottom line is, why steal butter? Are the profit margins that big that it's worth it to steal it?
I guess people want butter, I guess. Fun fact for you. Actually, a lot of people are saying, well, I'm going to buy margarine because it's cheaper. It is cheaper, but margarine has actually gone up as well as butter. So that's the thing about butter, but most people really just want butter. And bakers out there who are desperate to find cheap ingredients, well, if butter's affordable, they'll get it.
Interesting. And, I appreciate the margarine suggestion, but any baker worth their salt understands that you need to use the butter.
Butter. Yes, butter. Absolutely. No substitute. No way.
Butter is better, as the campaign used to say.
Grief and humor, they go hand in hand for the premise of a new Crave show called, wait for it, My Dead Mom.
I need a leave of absence to grieve.
Oh no, who died?
My mom.
I'm so sorry. When's the funeral?
3 years ago?
3 years ago. That is Lauren Collins navigating the complicated grieving process as Emmy, a young woman whose mom has died, but keeps popping up into her life. Lauren Collins is here with us in studio. Lauren, great to have you.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
So the series is a comedy, let's say dark comedy, because it's dealing with grief. This show, when you're filming this, what drew you to this project?
Oh, without a doubt, it was the team of women that came together to make this project. Immediately, Wendy Littner's writing, the creator, that was the first thing. Her ability to, navigate this dark topic with humor, and she's so talented. So that was the first thing. And, you throw in Megan Follows playing my mom, Chandler Levesque directing, our amazing producers, Lauren Palmer. It was just all these fabulous women I was like, I'm in, let's do it.
That's awesome. I love to hear that because the script itself must be so fascinating to dive into because grief itself, it's a complicated thing, right? And then when you think about losing a loved one, let alone a parent, it's not a linear process. No. It is all over the place. And we find your character, Emmy, 3 years on into this grief. What did the show teach you or share with viewers? What will it show about this timeline of grief?
I think you nailed it. It's not a linear process. It sneaks up on you in the most unlikely ways. And, I think something I really hope people take away from it, if you are close to someone who has lost someone, I hope watch the show because I think it really gives you, you can understand, you can empathize with that feeling of loss. I really hope that it helps people understand that this process is not easy and it is surprising and it's difficult. It's really difficult.
We just saw some footage for the show with Eden Follows. Obviously, your mom in the show, Fern. So what is the relationship there like between the two? Because I will tell you, there are portions of the show that we could not show on morning television. Not suitable for work.
It is a little, it does get a little bit risque, they have a very complicated relationship. I think it was really brave, again, of Wendy, the creator, to tell this story because she wasn't actually visited by the ghost of her dead mom, but this is a very personal story for her and it really dives into her relationship with her mom. Which was not easy. And we didn't want to shy away from that. Intergenerational trauma is certainly like the theme of the show and how that follows you forever. Especially with my character facing this question of whether or not she wants to have kids. Am I going to do to my kids what my mom did to me? That is certainly following Emmy. So the relationship between the mother and daughter is, that's the core of the show.
Did that levity that you bring, the humor that we see on screen, was that what it was like offset?
It really was. We had so much fun. It was such a great group of people. We had like 2 days to film this show. It was so quick and everyone just came together, worked so hard. The days were long. They were packed. Like really, I think we shot the entire season in less than 3 weeks.
That's wild.
So we needed everyone to just be game and ready to go. And it was like this incredible group of people. So we were very lucky.
Lauren, you mentioned that you really hope people watch this show so they understand this grieving process. For you, did it change how you look at grief?
It's funny. I have a pretty strong relationship with grief. I lost my dad 10 years ago, and that was another reason why I wanted to do the show and why I wanted to tell this story. I think I think it gave me a little bit of grace, and I forgive myself for, because you do feel that pressure, like I got to get over it. I can't keep living in this pain, but that's life. That's real, So I do think it helped me give myself a little bit of breathing room to accept that it's okay to grieve as long as you need to.
I'm sorry for the loss of your dad.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. The show is great. It's very funny. It's very dark. It's a must watch. A reminder, this series is streaming now on Crave. It is called My Dead Mom. Lauren Collins, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
So we were talking about black market butter earlier, but do you guys remember the 2012 maple syrup heist?
Yes.
$18 million of maple syrup were stolen right out of Quebec's national reserves, and nobody knew for months.
That's right. And now there's a new 6-part dramedy. It is based on that heist, and it's called The Sticky.
Margot Martindale, Christia Matopoulos, and Guillaume Cyr tell us all about the new show and its Canadian connection.
Welcome, all of you.
Well, thank you. Thank you. So nice to be here.
I was looking at the footage, and I remember watching this story, not only as a news story, but also as an investigation that's done by a couple of our long-form investigative units. And you guys have matched it frame for frame. Like, it looks like the undercover video. It was inspired, of course, by the real-life maple heist that happened in Canada. Did any of you know of this story before you started the project?
Guillaume and I are Canadian, so we knew about it. Margot didn't know anything about it.
I didn't know a thing.
And when you heard that this was a real-life Canadian heist, what'd you think?
It made it just that much more fantastic.
Tell me, Margot, about the dynamic between all three of you.
This
This is
group is like all broken souls and instant chemistry.
Yeah.
Tell me about the brains. Tell me about the brawn of the characters in this
You're
show.
talking to the brains.
The brains
that's
right
for
here.
sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm definitely the brains.
Yes.
I mean, look.
She's right.
Brawn,
heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Guillaume, I read that the initial description of your character, he's like 5'9", you are over 6 feet, and your first thought was maybe I can't play this role, but what made you go for it anyway?
Well, it's an opportunity for me. It was a big audition, so okay, what the hell? Let's go.
Absolutely.
Let's try it. And I got it after 4 months of audition. The star, yeah. The star was aligned, and magic arrived.
I love watching all these scenes. What was it like filming in Quebec?
It was cold and lovely. I will say this, the most wonderful crews, a terrific atmosphere that basically, Quebec, Montreal became sort of the fifth character on the show.
Yes,
it
absolutely.
really established what this show is. We had a ball shooting in Montreal.
And did you have tons and tons of maple syrup, or did you stay away from it completely?
We had a little.
Tiny.
Yeah.
Tiny little bit?
Tiny little bit.
Talk to me about the chemistry. Not only, here on the couch, I can see that you guys get along really well, but also on set and making this as well.
I mean, yeah, go. I mean,
it was fantastic and a joyride the whole time.
You can't plan for chemistry. You either have it or you don't. And the fact that we all showed up professional, ready to go, ready to play, and then we all got along, we were able to find so many moments that were not even in the script, moments that were just happening right there and then. And we really...
and we are very different type of people, but we complement each other.
Yeah.
Yes.
It is the right word?
Very much.
That's right.
So, yeah.
I can
And
see
we
it.
understand each other.
We all come from the same place as actors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have our feet on the ground, and even it doesn't matter how high we go.
Yeah.
We could. We still have our feet on the ground even if we're upside down.
And a lot of theater background, too, so we understand each other, and yeah.
I can't wait for people to watch this.
Me too.
Not only because it is fantastic to watch, but also because it's such a strong Canadian connection.
It's a
to it as
wonderful,
well.
such a great Canadian story.
It's a great way to put Canada on the map that way, too. Yeah.
For a maple syrup heist.
Absolutely.
Listen, Justin Bieber, Drake, and the maple syrup heist. They're all right up there,
That's
guys.
good. That's
for
good.
sure.
Thanks for being with us today.
For more great conversations, download or hit subscribe to Your Morning the podcast on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Don't forget, you can always watch us live, and we love when you do, weekday mornings on CTV CTV News Channel or on your CTV News app. Start your morning with us.